Welcome, modern day mystics, fellow truth seekers, James and Justin back again, and today we continue the series on the Valmiki Ramayan, done by 21 Notes. We've talked with the creator. Hopefully at some time we can sit down, have an interview, and he's asked us to ask you to put some questions down in the comments section for him regarding his channel. Anything that you'd like to know, send it in the comments. We want to hear it so we can ask him when we sit down. Hopefully, we're going to take this up to episode 7 at least, this series that we've been doing. And we're going to show you a clip in this one of the Valmiki Ramayan. And this is Yagya for an Heir.
And we're going to talk about it after, right?
That's right. So stay tuned.
Now fast forward a few years. The sage accepted Dashrath's invitation and came to Ayodhya with Shanta. He then instructed Dashrath to release the Ashwamedha horse under the protection of soldiers. A year passed, and Vasishtha then began these preparations. Think of the Yagya as a giant exhibition or expo. A mini temporary city, the Yagyavatak, had to be built on the northern bank of Sharayu. Remember, Ayodhya was on the southern bank. Here are some interesting points about the instructions given by Vasishtha. The Yagyavatak had to be large enough to house thousands of visitors. So architects, builders, and carpenters were invited. And it was no dry affair. Invitees included dancers and actors. The residential accommodations were to be furnished with many items of food and all kinds of entertainment for visitors. Vasishtha was very clear. Datavyamannam vidivat satkritya natu leelaya. Food was to be given respectfully, not as charity. Sarve varna yatha pujam prapnuvanti susatkritah. People from all varnas should be well treated. Workers should be paid properly with money and food. Sometimes it is believed that in ancient times the citizens were called upon to do the king's tasks, fighting wars or building palaces and temples as slaves without any fair payment. But Valmiki has clearly described that the king could only call upon his people to do tasks for fair payment and without coercion. Further, Vasishtha said, invite all the kings. There is specific mention of kings from all parts of India, including Dakshinatyan Narendranscha, kings from the south. There was no north-south divide. The preparations were completed. The guests arrived and the Yagya began. Valmiki describes how the Yagya was actually conducted. A lot of emphasis on doing things correctly, with the right ingredients, in the correct order, vidhivat. No shortcuts, no jugaad. Men and women from different lands participated in the Yagya. In between the ceremonies, debates and discussions were conducted. At the end of the Yagya, from the flames rose a figure who said to Dashrath, take this porridge and give it to your wives, who will bear you sons. Dashrath went and gave half of it to Kaushalya and a quarter to Sumitra. Of the remaining quarter, he gave one half to Kaikeyi and the remaining back to Sumitra. The Yagya was over. Everyone returned home. An interesting aside, Rishyashringa later spent his last years in meditation at a place near Sringeri in Karnataka. Sringeri itself is short for Rishyashringagiri. Now, 6 seasons passed after the Yagya. In the month of Chaitra, on the 9th day, Kaushalya gave birth to Ram. Soon after, Bharat was born to Kaikeyi, and Sumitra gave birth to Lakshman and Shatrughna. there was singing and dancing on the streets. And so were born the 4 princes of Ayodhya. Meanwhile, what's happening with the Rakshasas? In the next episode, Valmiki will tell us about the background of the Rakshasas. And it's not what you think. Iti ha asa. That is how it happened.
There you go. Another solid episode from 21 Notes. He's a good storyteller, good at laying it all out there.
I really like the drumming. Like, that was very pleasant, and he's got a very kind of soothing voice. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting because, sometimes you think with, religion or in spirituality that stories have to be dramatic and wild and out there. I kind of like the simplicity of that story. It was kind of just laying out there kind of like some of the the cultural dynamics of what was going on, showing that it was fair. Like, some of us might watch a video like that and be like, I wish it was like that nowadays. Imagine you went to the employer and he had to pay you a fair wage. Now it's like we set up rules where it's like, what's the bare minimum we can get away with paying people to get a job done? Imagine if it was more like, let's make sure that everyone, is taken care of. And there was no pressure too. One of the dynamics there with the king was also that they weren't coerced or persuaded that they would have to do it for the king. It was like they did it on their own volition. Like, okay, all right, okay. Maybe I'll do that for a wage, and then look at, I guess 4 kids came out of the deal of that whole thing. I was a little lost on some of the dynamics of why that whole ceremony or that get together had to happen. I kind of when you're watching a story, you usually don't always get everything the first time. I kind of missed some stuff there. But
I'm impressed with how much you did get there. I was going to say, I'm going to need the Coles notes from you. I was pretty distracted thinking about some other things. But this is our show, so I get to talk about it.
Yeah.
ADHD, ADD, like attention deficit disorder. In recent years, I've been fascinated over the years why my attention is diverted from certain things. Like, I kind of think I could do complex math, but I've always struggled with math and wondered why. And then I pull out a calculator and I'm like, okay. And now you pull out ChatGPT. Yeah. My mind won't let me retain things that I think are. I think my mind compartmentalizes things that are vital to my survival, and makes room for it won't allow me to learn something that is not pertinent to me. And so I'm like, why I can't. Some things I watch or I listen to, and my mind won't let me gather all the details of it. It's distracted. Not everything. Some things I'm like, it gets embedded deeply. But a lot of the details of a lot of this stuff. And I think it's because, if I'm going to be fair, I'm not, for me particularly, I see a lot of religion and a lot of religious texts as something to be assimilated, and transcended. Yeah. And so I can't really sit here and go into the details and discuss the details of this. Yeah. That's just my honest kind of approach to stuff like this as of recent times. Yeah. It'd be different if somebody was right in front of me and I was interacting with them.
It's interesting you say that, because there probably will be a time where you will be able to gather information like this that directly addresses some of the ADHD that you're talking about. Think about this itself. Think about how many kids back then, 100 years ago, would have been maybe listening to a story like this and wouldn't have been able to listen to it would have been a lot rougher. Someone might have been reading it from a book or trying to tell them you missed one thing. For me, I appreciate stuff like this because now it's when I do miss it, I'm oh, I can I lost my train of thought. I can rewind it 1 minute and go back and watch it again and again and again. Yeah, that was one of the things that killed me during school.
I don't want to do that, though. Yeah. What I'm saying is, I don't believe ADHD or ADD is what anyone tells you it is. I don't believe that's what it is. I'm saying I've got a relatively, arguably vast vocabulary. I can hold several concepts in my mind all at once. But I've tried to learn math before. I've forced myself to learn algebraic math and learned it, and then it doesn't stay with me. Other people with a math oriented brain and they, you know, can retain it in a different way, and then they go off to utilize that in ways that are pertinent to their survival. For me, I notice the details of stuff like this doesn't stick because I do believe that I have kind of a different destiny than getting like... It would be different if all of a sudden society collapsed, or I found myself, immersed in a society with this stuff. My brain would have a different relationship with it.
Yeah.
But given the situation, my brain has a hard time, my mind has a hard time retaining this stuff. I'm just being honest about it. For good or for worse, whatever that means, it's probably offensive as hell to some people.
Yeah. But I think it's fair, because you probably say that someone coming from another culture, a similar culture to this, might have the same issue.
Absolutely.
Looking at something from, say, a Western perspective or something like that. So.
Yes. So my final say on this is, like, it's going to be interesting going into interviews with all kinds of people, because part of me, it's going to be tricky, because a lot of what I really want to get at is, like, if I had somebody that was doctrinally religious before me, my heart would want to say, I think you should drop your religion, all religions. And you should, like, drop them and not be religious anymore. And that's like, you can't just say that. It's, you know, like, you got to back up what you mean by that. And that's what the tome of videos we've reacted to are all about. You can see all the different viewpoints I've had over the years. Because at times, you know, attention fluctuates. You're like, depending on how much you believe it's pertinent, your attention will go to it. Yeah. But if you're like, I don't believe in space entities. Yeah. I don't believe it. Like, I don't actively believe in that anymore. Yeah. So behold, that's my response.
Well, that's a good question, because that, for those out there that are watching this who've made it this far, you know, how do you find these stories still relevant to you? How do they, like, how does it apply to your 21st century existence? What can you take out of this and use for yourself? So
probably depends vastly on the culture that you're in.
Yeah. So leave in the comments. Let us know what you have to say about that. And hopefully you enjoyed our reaction on this. And if you did, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share this with a friend, and everyone till next time,
stay spiritual.